everyone. Welcome back to another episode of #Notapis, a podcast by Berita Harian. I am your host Natasha, and co-hosting with me today is BH News Editor Hadi Saparin. Hi Hadi.
Hello.
And we also have the privilege to have with us today Editor-in-Chief of SPH Media Trust, English, Malay, Tamil Media, EMTM Group, Mr. Wong Wei Kong. How are you, sir?
Hello everyone, I'm good today, this morning.
Great. And so if you're listening in, you must be thinking, why is Mr. Ong joining our podcast? Well,
Mr. Wong.
he's Mr. Wong.
Mr. Ong.
Why is
Say
Mr. Wong?
Wei Kong.
Wei Kong. Okay,
Yes.
okay. So why is Wei Kong joining us in the podcast studio? So well, he's here today because he's here to share with us a bit more about how SPH Media has progressed and evolved with the nation over the years. For those who may not know, right, Berita Harian is actually the sole Malay language broadsheet newspaper published in Singapore. It was founded on 1st July 1957 and published daily from Monday to Saturday and on Sunday as Berita Minggu. Since the paper has evolved and adapted to various changes with like digitalization and all. So Hadi, today what will we be doing?
I think we're gonna talk about we can start off with how journalism has evolved, and how this has impacted our media landscape. You know, before we go into the details about transformation and stuff like that, which our readers or audience have heard a lot over the past few months, maybe they don't fully, understand what's going on. So perhaps as something that we can start off with is how the media landscape has evolved and how journalism has been impacted.
Yeah, so I think the fact that we are doing a podcast today, this morning, already shows, how much I think journalism has changed even in a very short time. So I think the biggest impact, right, is on how we tell our stories. And we tell our stories now on many different platforms, right? From online, on socials, multimedia, in print. We also reach out on Telegram, WhatsApp groups, podcasts, newsletters. So we now produce content on a whole variety of platforms. And I think that is a very big change for the newsrooms. And along with that, then comes the need to also understand our audiences better, right, on different platforms. And we now accept that different audiences engage with us in different ways on different platforms, and we need to actually understand how they engage with us. And it's also important then also to then measure how successful we are in reaching out to our audiences, because we want to know that we are effective, right, in what we do. And at the end of the day, the purpose is still the same, right? We want to reach out to as many people as we can, be useful to them, be part of their lives, and also be good partners, right, to the people who would work with us, right, on projects, on initiatives. So journalism has changed in many different ways, but it has also not changed, right? Because fundamentally, right, we want to put out good journalism. We want to reach out to our users, our audiences, and be useful to them.
Sorry, if I can just to add on to that, I mean, that's on a whole how journalism has evolved and been impacted. How about vernacular? How do you see vernacular media, especially, with BH? I mean, things has changed quite a bit since BH was first, the birth of BH in 1965.
57,
57, sorry.
1957.
No, sorry, I was thinking about your birth year, sorry.
Oh,
So
right.
1957.
Yes.
Yeah. So and today, it's so much different. So how has vernacular? How is it impacted vernacular, and how we need to move forward?
Yeah, so I think if you think about it in another way, I think the mission has not changed, right? I think the mission is still to reach out to the community as much as possible and to be useful and valuable to the community, right? I think what has changed is that the community has also changed, right? Your audiences have moved and they now have gone from just one format, as I mentioned earlier, to many different formats. Their interests have also changed, right? How they consume news and content has also changed, and that there is also now a lot of other options available to them. And because of that, BH has already changed and will continue to change, right, to be relevant to their audiences. And we are doing a podcast now. You do have your video programs. You try to find ways to reach out to your younger audiences. And I think that's all part of the change, right? So while the mission has not changed, how we deliver the mission has changed, and we will have to continue to change to be relevant to our audiences.
So I think for those who may not know, actually BH editors and journalists actually work with quite limited technology, correct, not Hadi?
Previously, yes.
Previously, yeah. So before this, we had, we use limited cameras. Most of the time the videos that we produce, we use our phones and whatever handheld mic that we have. But recently, Berita Harian actually went through like some restructuring, right, in December 2020.
Yes, I think more importantly, I guess, it's not just the hardware. It's also the software of the newsroom, right? So I think previously, just for our audiences, our listeners, benefit, a lot of journalists multiple hats, perhaps. In fact, so what we've done recently was to restructure the newsroom. Of course, we get new talents in, beef up the team, and now we have our own team looking at social media, looking at podcast. Natasha is our podcast producer presenter, right? And then there's a team that supports her. Also, there are teams that look at other content pillars as well. So so I think that is good. That's more important than the hardware that we're talking about. Those things are there for us to get, and not something that's par for the cost lah. We will get those, but what we need is the team, the software within the newsroom to carry out the functions lah.
So maybe on a SPH media kind of level, maybe you can share a bit about what has been done to make sure the news is delivered to readers continuously with the utmost quality, even through the various platforms that we actually have.
Yeah. So I think, as Hadi mentioned earlier, it's not just the hardware or even the software. It is actually the people, right? And I think what we have tried to do over the last year or two, and I think it's also reflected in what has happened in BH itself, is that we try to have good people and keep them, and try also to attract people, right, to join the newsroom. A big part of that is to give them a common purpose, right? And I think in BH, I can sense that is actually very, very strong, right? There is this very strong commitment to serve the community. And I think that is very important in bringing the whole team together, whether you've been here for 30 years or whether you have just joined for a few months. And then once you have the people, then you have to, I think, train and develop them. And we set up a media academy not too long ago. And with that, I think we have been encouraging more and more journalists to go for training and development, not just locally, but overseas. And maybe Hadi, you can share also about your experience going overseas, right, on a training and development program. I think that's important because it exposes people to how things are done elsewhere, what are the common challenges or unique challenges, and then it just frees up people's minds to look at problems differently, right? I think that's very important. And with that, I think then we'll try to get people to first come together and work together. So we know that journalists often like to work in silos, right? I mean, they just like to do their own thing. But I think in this new digital landscape that we are in, we can't work in silos. We need to work together with each other in the newsroom, and also work with people outside the newsroom or even in other parts of the company, right? Because you need all the different skill sets to come together, right? It's just not editorial. You need product, you need tech, you need the data people to be there, you need the marketing people to help you push out your product. So we do need to, in a way, learn how to work in a cross-functional way. I think we have started on that, but it's something that we can all learn to do more of, how to work together as a team. And the purpose is still the same, right? It is to put out good journalism.
You shared a bit about the challenges. What do you think is some of the challenges that vernacular media like BH actually faces through this kind of transformation and digitalization era?
Yeah. So first, I think you have a small team, right? And I think when you have a small team, as the starting base, it's very difficult to, in a way, do the different things you need to do now without making people double head and triple head, right? So I think at one point, the newsroom was double heading and triple heading. And when you do that, it actually limits how much you can push the potential of, the things you want to do, right? So I think the challenge then is to how to reorganize ourselves to be able to, in a way, focus on the really important things we need to do, still within the limits of a relatively lean team, right? I think that's one challenge. I think it's something that would evolve, and then each newsroom like BH, we have to find out which is the best way to do this, right? I think one key thing is to decide what you want to focus on and what you may want to let go, right? So that you become really good in the areas that you feel are important to you. I think that's one challenge. For the vernaculars, I think there's also a language challenge that we face today, in the sense that the audience today is, in a way, not as strongly bilingual as they were perhaps in the past. And I think that, in a way, also require you to change how you reach out to them, right? Do you use a mix of English and Malay to reach out to this new generation? Do you do that for all things, or do you do it for some things and on certain platforms, right? So I think that's one challenge too, because you need to get the mix correct, right? It's also a challenge for the newsroom in terms of talent, right? Can you find enough people with the language ability to come and join the newsroom? I think you can, but you probably have to, in a way, look at how you attract talent, and then when they come in, how you train them and what you ask them to do, right? Do you need someone who does video and podcasts to have the same proficiency as someone who is writing, right? So I think those are questions that the newsrooms would have to assess. I don't think there's a right answer, and you just have to kind of decide what is the right way for you to go forward.
Perhaps just to share, since you mentioned about the study trip that I went to, I think interestingly, when we go for such trips, I went to Oxford for the Reuters program, and it made me think, right, about this issue of avoidance of news. And it's more, I think, acute for vernacular, since we're talking about challenges facing vernacular, because as you mentioned, our audience are becoming more and more bilingual. So if you push out news that they already read on the English media, right, from in ST, in BT, for example, why would they want to read it in Malay when they are less proficient in Malay, right? So because of that, we sat down and we discussed, and we came up with this BH Lab initiative. In Malay, it's a Lab Berita. So what it does is it focuses on stories that are not on ST, not on BT, or other English media, and the idea is for it to go out quickly online, because these stories will eventually be picked up by alternative media, which is also our competitor. So what the idea is for the team to do a lot of social media monitoring, pick this up quickly and push it out in a way that we do not possibly think it's a full enough story to publish in the past. Because traditional journalism, you have to have several voices. You got to check certain facts. Of course, when we push these stories out, we must make sure that certain facts are correct. But we may not need to have other details that we usually have to have in a traditional news story. So it's a storytelling kind of approach. We push it out early. We get the viewers, readers on board, and then we keep updating the story throughout the day as we get more facts. And I think we have pushed this strategy out since July. And this month, in August, I don't know whether Nazri has shared with you. I mean, Nazri is our editor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but in August, we've breached the 1 million page views. For the first time since maybe 5 years ago when we first started.
Right.
So we haven't deep dived into the data whether it's BH Lab, but early sign shows that the lab stories are doing as well as our top 10 stories on a daily basis. So they do contribute page views as much as our top 10 stories every day. So yeah, so these are the things that we do in the newsroom to try to do things differently to what we have done before. Like you said, we have, because of BH Lab, we have to sacrifice other things that we've been doing as a newsroom. It's not easy to do because we've been doing it for decades, right?
Yes.
So yeah, but it's hopefully, stats don't lie, and hopefully people will, more people in the newsroom will buy into this concept of reporting lah. Yes. So yeah. So on that note, I just wanted to ask, what is the end game for vernaculars like us lah? In terms of this transformation journey that we've been embarking on, because people outside will always say that in Singapore we have a small Malay market. If talking about traditional media, ops is about revenue generated through advertising. But if our readers, our audience are consume other media as well, so therein lies the issue, the problem, the challenge for BH in terms of revenue through advertising. So what's the objective, if you can explain it to our audience?
So I think for BH, I think the main objective is to reach out to as many people you can in your community, right? And I think that remains the objective. I think the whole point of BH, right? If you think in terms of public journalism, I think the revenues are an important consideration, but I don't think it should come in between you and achieving that ultimate objective, right? That's one. I think the other point is that while the Singapore market is small, I don't think BH has maximized its potential reach here, right? So you look at your current share, I think you will agree that you can actually increase that share. Maybe you can double it, you can triple it, but there's room to grow, right? So I think even within Singapore, there is room to grow that reach. I think one challenge is, I think we have all mentioned already, the younger audiences. And if you work on that, I think that will give you some potential to grow your overall reach, right? So the younger readers or audiences who may not engage with us right now, if we can find the new formats to reach them, which we are trying to experiment and try, you could find actually that the outcomes may be quite encouraging, as I think you have already started to see, right? In the early stages, when you do some of these things, your reach actually do reflect that as well. And so I think the focus is really in the immediate term, at least, to try and grow your reach within the community in Singapore. And once you have done that, then we can also start thinking about, audiences overseas as well, right? Because I think there are audiences overseas who are also interested to see how the Singapore Malay Muslim community is developing, how it's adapting to change and so on. And I think that is also quite a valuable message, I think, for BH to be able to put out, right? How is the community here responding to changes, rising up to the challenges, right? But to me, I think that is, in a way, a second order objective. I think the objective for now, I think, is to really capture your home ground, right? Make sure you are already the only Malay national daily here, and to make sure that you actually capture as much ground as you can here in Singapore and across all the different age groups and all the different social groups as well, right? Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about public journalism, quality journalism as
Yeah.
well. What in this landscape of social media, alternative
Yes.
media, why is it important for us to have good journalism and BH to fill that space?
Yeah. So I think when you have a lot of options out there and a lot of sources of information, I think audiences would want to know what is a credible, trusted source they can turn to when they really want that, right? So in maybe everyday situations, they may not want that. They may just have fun and be entertained and to, spread rumors and gossip and all. Right? Everyone loves to do that. But when they need to, they must know that there is a source that they can turn to, right? And I think we saw that during COVID, right? When there was a lot of information out there, a lot of different viewpoints. But if you look at how SPH Media as a group and then BH have done in terms of traffic and page views, you know that a lot of people were turning to us, right, for that trusted, credible source of information. So I think that is a very important role that BH can play in the community, be that trusted source of information. The other role, I think, is to be able to hold the center, right? Because as you have more and more views, you find that the extremes to the left and to the right are pushing even further apart, right? And I think it's important for Singapore, right, that there are people who is kind of like holding the center that will reflect, the diversity of views, but actually know what Singapore needs, right, and stands for, right? I think that's very important too. So it's to be trusted, to be credible, and to be able to kind of like hold the center, right, for most Singaporeans.
So I mean with all these like changes and all, I mean I think you shared that we're seeing like early stages of the changes that we've already made. But how do you think this will continuously change, because the landscape is always changing, right? So and how do you think we can continue to be on top of it and make sure that we remain relevant in the community as well as like the general public?
Yeah. So I think we are in a situation where change will not stop, right? And so you cannot just think in terms of your platforms or your formats or even the new content that you are planning to bring in, because at a certain point those will become obsolete too, right? So I think what's important is to have the mental framework to change, right? That you have people who are always ready to adapt to the change, whatever that change is. And I think that is something that is good to build for the longer term, so that once you have that mindset and that culture, right, and people are equipped to deal with change, then it really doesn't matter what that change is, right? Because then the newsroom will be able to react quickly to it and make the right choices. It's easier said than done, right? Because this is a mindset, culture thing. But I think once we all kind of like realize that is actually what we need to be, and not see change as something that we don't like or we try to avoid, right? Because I think it's very easy to feel in the newsrooms that, okay, we have just changed this year, why must we change the next year, right? And that's quite understandable to have as a feeling, right? Because in a way, journalism is full of change every day, right? Our lives revolve around changes. Then why must we change ourselves again and again? But that's part of the game, right? You want to stay in it. So we need to have that framework, that mindset of change. I think that's the most important thing.
Okay.
Maybe just since you were talking about the polarization of the left and right earlier, just as a final thing, with government funding, a lot of talk out there being saying that SPH it could affect us being impartial in our reporting. So if you can speak on behalf of our EMTM, English, Malay, Tamil newspapers, which includes Berita Harian, what is your message to our listeners out there?
So I think it serves no one well, including government or other stakeholders, right? If SPH media is just a reflection of a certain point of view, right? In a way, all the support that we get will be wasted, right? If we are seen that way and we are no longer credible or trusted. So I think it's important, whatever the funding or business model is, right, that all the SPH media titles are seen as objective, credible, and balanced, right? In real life, it is actually quite hard to do that sometimes because you have, different interest groups trying to, in a way, pull you to their side, and it's not just government, right? It could be other newsmakers. All newsmakers would want you to reflect their side of the story. But I think it's a balancing act that we need to do every day, right? So that whatever the model is, we do not lose our purpose, right? To be credible, to be trusted by audiences.
Okay, I think that's just to say it from a BH perspective. I think since over the year or so, since we embarked on this transformation journey, we have gotten plenty of support. So from a vernacular media perspective, it's very refreshing, allowing us to embark on our strategy with the full support and resource of the company. Can only bode well for the community as we try to inform, entertain, and educate the community moving forward. So from BH, we'd like to thank you for your support towards vernacular paper, vernacular media, and it's been very encouraging for the entire team.
Yeah, I'm part of that new new group. I mean, I think personally, we see the change in how BH is actually focusing more on digital content that we create, and I think recently also we did our first live in the office for the presidential election. So it was quite refreshing to see how we bring news to the community in a different way, apart from the usual print media and the usual social media. Live is a thing now, guys.
Yeah.
So I mean, in the future, I guess this is something that our viewers and our readers can actually look forward to. Correct, Adi?
Yes, we'll do more of those. I mean, the live shows or more digital content. I mean, the idea is, of course, to embrace this digital first concept. And truth be told, I think the newsroom have to embrace that first before we can, produce content and reach out to the audience, especially the younger audience. That's our focus now. Yeah.
I mean, I have to say that I'm very encouraged by what BH has done in a very short time, right? So the purpose has always been there, but now I see the newsroom innovating, creating new things, being ready to try, and I think that's very, very important, right? We may not always succeed in what we do, but we need to try. Some things will succeed, some things won't succeed. We take all the small steps that we can take, right? And over time, those small steps would actually add up to some distance, right? And then when you look back, you find that you are actually ahead of where you were maybe a year ago. So I really look forward to what BH will be doing in the coming year, and looking forward to also working closely with the newsroom.
Right.
We look forward to that too.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, I mean, journalism has changed quite a lot since our paper was established, and over the past few years, especially with COVID and all, right? So a lot of the things that we come up with is mainly audience driven, data informed, and like on various platforms that we actually have. So it's actually crucial for us journalists and the organization to continuously change ourselves, to make sure that we are able to capture the attention of our readers and listeners. So thank you so much, Wei Kong, for being with us here today, and also Hadi for being my co-host.
Hey, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank
I'll see you
you.
guys in the next episode of #NoDoubt.